Hello, everyone. Patriot 5 here. Good to see Janet. Uh, let's get this party rolling. Yeah. Party here tonight or the real party? That's the party we need to get going. I think that's what you're talking about. Jeffrey and David is here. Papa G. Bill Woods, Family Channel. And all. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and say the pledge and play the music. I'm going to come back and start, see what we can put together tonight. There's not a lot out there, guys. They're being very, very quiet. I didn't even listen to Bruce. I've got it to read, but very disappointing with Bruce last night. Very, very. The only good thing about it is I got to spend time chatting with Marianne, and we have a good time. So that being said, let's get this, like Janet said, let's get this party rolling. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You've had some success against them. You couldn't even make it to qualify for the win.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again. Just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, where the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, when at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt as long as God bless the USA. God bless the USA.
He asked me about
from the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains
I'll
of
never
Texas.
forget that.
Oh, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, oh, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me.
Oh boy, it'd be nice to see them fight for the team leaving home right now. And more importantly, they should at least apply that. Yes, God bless the USA. You know, when I came on tonight and I looked, and the first thing I seen was Janet say, let's get this party going. It gave me a sense of really joy and happiness. It gave me a sense that everybody is still here waiting for this to happen. And, you know, we could have all surrendered many, many days, many, many months, weeks, whatever ago. We could have easily just give up, but we haven't. And, you know, there's not a lot of news out there, but I'm going to cover it. But I want to talk to the kids. And I want to start off with Patriot Princess, our queen, and her brother, Hunter. You know, I seen today from Janet, Grandma Janet, Jana, that Hunter's got a birthday coming up this month. And I really hope she reminds me so I can sing to him because, you know, this is a little guy that, you know, it seems to me like Patriot Princess, our queen, she gets all the credit in the family. And it's not meant to be. It's just that, you know, when I got out of high school and I quit playing sports competitively, I went into umpiring and refereeing, and I chose to go into girl sports because they were so far down the chain. It was bad back then, the way they played basketball and the way they played softball. But then a few years later, I met the girl that I ended up marrying, and she was really good in sports. And, you know, even though I'm not married to her, I still respect what she accomplished in high school. And in my opinion, if she wasn't the best, she was the top 1, 2, or 3 woman athlete that ever come out of Herscher High School. I mean, they had bowling, which is as a sport, but they had volleyball, they had basketball, they had track. You know, they have one other girl sport. And the whole thing is, she got varsity letters from her freshman year all the way to her senior year in all 5 sports. She got 20 varsity letters. She was honorable mentioned, all conference. She was all conference. She got votes for all state on a couple of sports. She had a serve that, thank goodness, my daughter developed a serve even better than hers. And in my opinion, being a sports person and watching sports, I think my daughter and my ex-wife probably had 2 of the best serves that any girls at Herscher's ever had. But I got into girls sports and I backed them. And I used to do girls games for $2 a game in softball when I could have been making 35 and 40 in boys baseball. I was back then the same way I am now. It wasn't about the money. To me, as long as I got enough money to put food on the table, take care of my family, I'm okay. Now, we're getting ready to go into another element, kids, but I wanted to talk to Hunter, and that's not even his real name, but I wanted to talk to him and just let him know that even though I talk about your sister more, you're always in my heart too, because you're part of the Patriot family. And then we have the Patriot Boogie, Boogaloo, Boogaroo, and Boogie. And you know, they bring John's kids, Boogs, Boogaloo, Boogie, and Booger, whatever. I mean, you know, I say it a different way, I think, every night. But, you know, John is constantly sending me messages. And he sent me one yesterday or today. And I just seen it today. It might have been yesterday. And it was him and one of his grandkids, you know. And, you know, get pictures of John, you know, and you know, I love it when I get things like this, you know. Patriot Super Jimmy, his dad just contacted me the other day and apologized because he hasn't been online to talk to me lately. And I'm thinking, come on, Jim, you lost your wife, who we all loved, in Renee. You lost her. You have 4 kids, and Grandpa's come to live with you to help out. You have to work a full job every week so you can take care of these kids. And your oldest kid is 17 and your youngest is, I think, 2 or 3. You know, so you don't need to apologize to me. Whenever you get a chance to say hi, do it. And then, you know, we have Karate Kid and Patriot Karate Kid and Patriot Wyatt Earp. And you know, I just love their mom, you know. And you know what I'm saying here is not only our kids Patriots, but they come from such really, really good families. You know, Patriot Little Leona, Mike is always sending me pictures. Mike, I'm going to take a picture of a little bit of my currency and I'm going to send over to you because I know you was the one that convinced me to buy it, but they didn't send a receipt with it. So I need to know what it is. But I was talking around, guys, the currency is, me and Mike, we keep sending each other stuff and keep saying we're not going to buy anymore, but I think we both know we're going to lie. I tried to buy some the other night again, because the more I can have, the more I get, I give up a lot, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But, little Leona and little Elon, huh?
Did the socks tied up?
Yeah. And it's just one of those things that, I love all those kids and all the moms and grandpas and everything. And, I was talking to a lady today, and she says, what pushes you? What gives you the desire to keep doing what you're doing, Ralph? Because she says, I watch and I see people get mad at you. They get mad at me for wearing a hat. A hat. They get mad at me because I want to make America great again, And I got my red on because it's Friday and I support the troops. And she says, how do you keep going like this? And I said, it's simple. I got the direction and I got the heart, and I don't care what people say, because for every one person that cuts his hat down, 25 people tell me how much they like it, and yes, we have, Larry. Yes, we have. I just seen that. And that was funny too. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, about the hat missing. But, I try to cover every kid. Patriot 11, I heard from Grandma, but now I haven't heard from her for a while. And, we have a lady that comes in on the show. Her name is Linda Scullin. And Linda had a bad day. She's got a kitty that's sick, and I can relate to it. I can relate to when your animals are sick, you worry so much. And I pray for Linda and her little cat. And I got a letter from her today that said, wow, her husband Bob said, hey, things are good, that the little kitty was moving around and doing better. It's a little animal that really, really, really needs these special beds. My little dog laying here really needs these special beds. She's 14 years old. But why do we have to say, oh, she's 14? She was out in my brother Ron's yard, Patriot 6 yard a while back, and there was a lady across the street staying in her camper in her daughter's yard. Ron's across the street neighbor, very nice family. And I've known this lady for a long time, the lady across the street's mom that was camping out. And matter of fact, I was supposed to date her one night, and I worked over, and instead of dating her, my brother Russ took her, and I looked at her and I said, oh, thank God. You see, I said, I know you, don't I? And she said, yeah. And I said, oh, thank you, God. Thank you. But, it's because of certain things that they do, certain things that happen, the reason they're like that. A girl that was taking care of my friend next door, she did some terrible, terrible things, but when you get hooked on certain things, and kids, that's what I talk about, these things when you get hooked on, because don't ever take them. You don't need them. You don't need them. People look at me and say, oh, are you high? No, I'm high on life. I'm high on the fact that these beds, kids, I'm high on the fact that these beds, can let me talk to my grandkids, can let me stay here long enough to talk to my great-grandkids, maybe my great-great-grandkids, maybe my great-great-great-great-grandkids, and still have my kids and that too with me. What I would give, kids, for these beds to come out and actually be something. And one last thing I'm going to talk about these beds for you kids is I was talking to a lady today. She's a very known well lady, but I promised I wouldn't give her name out. And I was talking to her about these, and she said, Ralph, I've heard about these, but I didn't want to believe them. And she says, but you have information. Well, me and Ronnie have lots of information on these beds. I said, what do you want? She said, some videos. And I sent her some videos over.
Yeah, we just can't. You send you that one?
And I sent her one that Ron just sent me. And I said, wow, this is amazing. She goes, this is amazing. Thank you. And she literally, she told me she's sitting there watching these videos of what can happen with these beds, because she knows about 4 or 5 people that really need something like this. And at herself, she's moving up to around 50. And she says, wow, Ralph, do you realize what this means? And I said, It means a lot of things, but what's it mean to you? She says, it means to me that I could go back to where I'm like 23, 24, 25. I don't know how far they'll let me go. But if I want to have more children, I can. And you know, Ron got talking to me. Ron got talking about my daughter, because my daughter, you know, she's in a position where she fixed herself, where, you know, she did things for herself, where she can't have children anymore. But I'm telling you right now, I don't know any woman in the world, kids. You know, I don't know, and anybody that's listening. Hi, John. Good to see you. Hi, Papa G. Susie Q. Glad to see you. Jeffrey. But anyway, I don't know anybody in the world that loved to have children more than my daughter. But, you know, they had 3. And in the society that we live in right now, you really can't afford. Both people have to work, you know, and, you know, not everybody's got a papa or a grandpa like me, or a Mimi or a grandma like their mom. Not many people have people like that, that we can, that we can do something, you know, because we're there to help our kids. But just imagine Larry Smith and John. Just imagine, John, you're not only seeing your kids there, your grandkids there, but, you know, your 13-year-old granddaughter, when she gets another 12 or 13 years and she has kids, and you're there for them. And you're not just there, you know, sitting in a chair, rocking back and forth like this, you know. You're vibrant. You're showing them how to play. You're doing things with them. And just imagine the feelings you're going to have. But what happens when that child grows and has children? Man, guys, we can stay around long enough with these beds, kids. We can stay around long enough that we can actually watch generations 5, 6, maybe 7 deep. And who knows? You know, when I first heard about these beds, and I'm kind of using the beds because I want to touch the kids here and show what they're in for, what can happen in their lives. But I'm also hoping the adults here in the chatter and others are listening to what I'm saying, because these beds are literally, when you talk about a life changer, when you talk about not having to get up at 6 or 7 in the morning and take 3 and 4 and 5 medicine pills. And, you know, the thing is, when I take my medicine, Linda reminds me every day, and until I tell her, yes, I've taken them. And I won't lie to her. I can't lie to her, because if I do, then that makes me a creep. And I'm not that. And when you do something like that, it's just amazing to know that we're never going to have to take that. And when I was talking to this lady today about them, that I sent this information, and she's talking to me, she said, Ralph, this is absolutely amazing. Do you believe in them? And I said, well, let's put it this way. I've seen videos of people that said they was on them. And just the first one, and I explained all of the beds to them. She wants videos on all of them now. And then when people will open their eyes and when they will take a look, you know, and, you know, I've showed these to people, and they look at me, kids, that these people, these adults, these people that are supposed to be smart, they'll look at me and they'll say, that ain't going to happen. You cannot get rid of Big Pharma. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, toot, toot, bye-bye, Big Pharma. You're just about history, and it's going to be announced soon. It's going to be announced soon, and your lives are going to change. But, you know, I've talked to all the kids, but I have not mentioned my grandkids. You know, Small Hank is very excited because his mom and dad next month in October are going to Jamaica. 10-year anniversary. And they go to Jamaica every year on vacation at that time of year. But they take him, and they take my little granddaughter, Kira. And Kira will be staying a lot with a babysitter because she's never spent a night just with me. So they're worried that she loves the babysitter. She's there all the time. And so she'll be spending a lot. She'll spend some time with me. But Small Hank, he is so excited. This kid loves Jamaica. At 7 years old, he got himself a little girlfriend last year, and he couldn't remember her name because she had a hard name to remember. So he started just calling her Sweetie Pie, and that's what his girlfriend got named, was Sweetie Pie. And, you know, but he's excited for his mom and dad. Why? Because he says, I get to spend time with you and Uncle Ron again, because they did this once before for the 5, and he was only 3 years old. For the 5-year anniversary, they went, and they kept calling and calling. How is he doing? How is he doing? And at 3 years old, he said, Mom and Dad, quit calling so much. I'm fine. I'm with Uncle Ron and Grandpa Hank. Don't worry about it. I'm fine. You guys have fun. This was a 3-year-old. And he's a great little kid, and I was afraid he was going to be like my son was, a little bit chunky, a little bit overweight, but he wasn't. He outgrew it. And I took him over to my grandson's Patriot 7's 10th birthday yesterday. We went over for cake and ice cream, of which it didn't last long. And on the way over, it's a 20-mile trip. That boy never shut up 1 minute. He was blah, 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 blah. I mean, he was talking, and he's talking about things and games and stuff that he loves. And I had no clue what it was. I'm sitting there. Yeah, well, it sounds fun. You're going to have to show me. And I'm thinking, but I looked at his dad, my son Brandon, last night, and I said, I have no clue what he's talking about. He said, Dad, half the time I don't either. This kid is extremely intelligent. I mean, my son was smart, but this kid is intelligent. And then, we have Patriot 7, whose 10th birthday was yesterday. And as I said, he had football practice. So we just got cake and ice cream. They got to open their gifts, his gifts. And he was very happy. All that was there was his 2 grandmothers, myself, his mom and dad, and small Hank, his sister, Patriot super gymnast, and Patriot little monkey and Ella, Patriot super gymnast. I got them to stand in the house and take some pictures of them because I love having pictures of them. And I couldn't get them Liam because he had to get to football practice. So now tomorrow, Saturday at 3:00, we're going to celebrate his birthday. He's having a party themed baseball for his teammates, and he's got a little girlfriend. She's a little doll. They made it official. They're 10 years old. And he said, I know you're going to tease me. I said, I want to tease you, but I'm not going to tease you that much because I remember being a 10-year-old. And I remember Ron and Russ teasing me about my girlfriend. And, I just quit having a girlfriend because I didn't want to take to teasing. Hi there, Ian. And I hope I'm getting everybody. But, super gymnast, she does a handstand now, and she takes a video of it. And she says, Papa, you got to see this handstand. She sent me the video twice, but when she sends it, I can't open it. And I don't know why, but I can't open it. And she wants me to see it. So when she sent it again the second time last night, I told her, I can't get it open. I'm going to be at your house tomorrow. I'll look at it on your they've got a cell phone that they use for the kids for a house phone. So I can text them and talk to them without mom and dad knowing, because, there's sometimes the grandpa and the papa, the kids want to tell them things and be there. They want them to be there. And then little Addison, little monkey, comes up to me yesterday, and she treated me real bad Labor Day. She didn't want to be around me. And she ran up to me and she gave me a big hug. And as she's hugging me, she says, I'm really sorry. I should never treat you like that. And I said, it's okay. Don't worry about it. She said, no, it'll never happen again. Then we walk up and my ex-wife's sitting there, and she looks at my ex-wife and she says, this is my grandpa. He's my best friend, and I love him more than anybody but my mom and dad. And her grandma, my ex-wife, says, well, don't you love me? And she says, well, I love you. But she says, my grandpa is my best friend. And, it melts your heart when you get through to kids like that. And that's how I try to get through to each and every kid here. So that concludes the kids version. It concludes the music version of tonight's show. The kids version, I've talked to you, and the video is not made for you, but you can watch it under the supervision of your mom and dad, your grandparents, your legal guardians, someone that gives you permission. And the music that we play tonight is for entertainment purposes only. And I'm also going to play a voice video that you guys can hear later in the show, because this is something that I believe it was Geraldo Rivera that was interviewed. And I don't want to mention the name when I actually play it, but I'm pretty sure that's who is being interviewed. And when you hear what he says, and when you hear what the question is that the man asked him that's interviewing him, because he gets very arrogant in this interview. I'd love to show it to you here, but I can't. I'll just play it. But I have no legal rights to this. I'm just using it because it's very informative to the people that we are here as a group, as a family, as people who love one another. So that being said, let's move on and let's see exactly what we got tonight. Oh, Linda Scullen was just sending me a message, and I'm not sure exactly where she lives, but they don't have no water. So keep her in your prayers. Their neighbors don't either.
Watch the water.
So I want you to listen to this. This is what I wanted you to hear about this interview with this gentleman that I mentioned.
What do you mean by they're not criminal aliens? Are you saying that they came here legally or illegally? Which is the answer?
Only crime the vast majority of these people have committed is coming here illegally. That's the only
But
crime.
that makes
They're
them
not
criminal.
Tren de Agua. They're not MS-13. The vast majority of them. They commit fewer crimes than citizens do.
So do you
Stanford studies and
understand
others.
Respectfully, do you understand,
understand
the
everything.
definition of the? Do you understand the
understand
definition of the word illegal? Because you just said they came here illegally. Do you understand what that means?
Jeopardy.
That means they broke our laws. The laws on the book.
I love that. I love that because the man that I told you who it was, he is so cocky. He is so, and he always has been. He was arrogant. I know everything. I know everything. And when the man asked him, did they come here illegally? Do you know what coming here illegally means? It means they broke the law, which means they are a criminal. And I agree in a way with this gentleman. They're not as bad as criminals as some of them are. But how do you know which ones are and which ones aren't? So, you know, if you go through a process, if these people go through a process and they know what they're doing and they do it right, they can not only come here legally, but in a short time, they can apply for citizenship and stay here. But if you come into this country illegally, you're breaking a law, and breaking a law literally means you are a criminal. And this man, who was a talk show host for years, an arrogant ASOB, this man literally put him in his place. And the thing that I am so happy, I am so ecstatic about, is people are starting to put these scumbags in their place. You know,
Did you say the thing ain't meant for kids? And,
yes.
I didn't know.
Yes, I said that.
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
Ron was asking me if I said this video is not meant for kids, and I said, yes, I did. But anyway, that's how I feel. And then, you know, John, Janet, Larry, you know, Betty Woods, good to see you, Betty, Susie Q. Are you guys like me? Are you sick and tired of going and reading something and it's, you know, O'Donnell, the Rose one, you know, or it's someone else, you know, if he's going to be the president, I can't take 4 years of him. I'm leaving the country. God, please do it. Don't talk about it. Get your mangy rear ends going. I'm sure there's people on this panel tonight, on this video tonight, that would gladly drive them. Maybe even we could put some money together. And, they're only millionaires. Maybe we could buy their ticket to get them out. Give them a one-way ticket, because once you leave, and see, I want to see them go to these other countries, and I want to see them cut their president down, and I want to see them cut their government down, and I want to see them, well, if he's going to do this, I'm leaving because they're nothing but, and call names. President the Hat gets called more names. But boy, did you notice, you never hear a thing on MSN, mainstream news. You never hear anything on them. But all of a sudden, President the Hat, he didn't appear for a while. And everybody was saying, he's dead. He's not alive. He's gone. He's left us. No, it was the cabal. It was the bad people trying to make up more stories. They asked him in his...
I see a video today. Somebody thinks right now he's a hologram.
Someone's saying, Ron's saying they think something right now that he's a hologram. These people, read the Constitution, read the laws. You cannot impeach a retired or out of office president, but yet they tried to impeach him when he was out of office. What does that show you? He's in his third term, guys. He's in his third term. People say you can't do that. Man, you want to have some fun. David Duffy, Janet, Susie Q, Jeffrey, trying to see if there's anybody else. Larry Smith. You want to have some fun? Go on TikTok about 10:30 to midnight or even later. Go on there if you're awake. See, I don't have no trouble with that because, I stay up late. But I retired so I could stay up till I wanted and I could sleep till I wanted. And my son will come down and say, you still in bed? Yeah. Well, don't you do anything? Well, let's see. It's 9 in the morning or 9:30 in the morning. And I've already got my 20,000 steps, my 10 miles walked already today. What do you got done? Well, I got up and went to the bathroom. You know what I mean? And he says,
Hey, just between me and you, I'm going to move to Japan and ride the train all day.
Ron, Japan's supposed to have them really, really fast trains. Ron says, just between me and him. And I'm spreading it. He said, because he did it laughingly. He said, I'm going to move to Japan. I'm going to ride them trains all day. Why? You're going to see yourself coming and going. Then they go, boop, and you're there. Boop, and you're there. Think of that, kids. Guys, I got to tell you a story. I was talking to you about Small Hank. I'm going to get off subject a little bit. But as you can see, I'm in a good mood because I know we're about there. I know we're about there, and we don't have a whole lot, so I'm feeling time. And a lot of you guys say you like to hear my stories, but as we come home last night from Clifton, coming home from my daughter's house for my grandson's little cake and ice cream, and it was cupcakes. It wasn't even cake, it was cupcakes. But they sent Ron and me one home. They sent him one home, and I took him to the store, and I got him some more candy. But anyway, we're coming home, and he goes, how come we're going this way? I said, we're going a different way. He goes, what do you mean we're going a different way? And I said, thank you, David, for the thumbs up. And he said, why are we going a different way? And I said, because when I was a kid growing up your age, my mom always told me when you travel and you go someplace, you never take the same way back. You never take that same way back because the Indians have time to set up and ambush you. He goes, the real Indians? And I said, well, is there any other kind? The ones that shoot bow and arrows? I said, yeah. And he goes, they would shoot us? I said, what do you think Indians do? And I had him going. First thing he said when I finally got him home to his mom and dad, because they weren't even home. We was over and back so quick, they didn't even get home yet. So when they finally got home, I took him home before I came down and had supper with Ron. And then I got on Bruce and a small call with Mary Ann and that. And first thing he walks in, he looks at his mom and dad and says, we didn't come the same way back that we went over there. And his dad looked at him and says, why? Was Grandpa Hank telling you that he was worried about the Indians? And my grandson goes, you know about the Indians too. Guys, you can't make stuff like this. Oh, you can. But I mean, it's fun. And now today, he's only been home a short time because of being in school and then he had to go somewhere. He's already asked me 3 times. He's told me, he says, I told my dad when we went into town, I watched the way we went, and coming back, he was coming the same way. And I says, Daddy, we can't go this way. And he said, oh, he said, my dad said, you're right. So we went a different way. And his wife goes, why? Why can't we go this way? And small Hank looks at his mom and says, because of the Indians. She kind of looked, and she don't know the joke, because there are people that lived in town. They walked every place they went. When you live out 20 miles, 25 miles from everything, you're always traveling. But I told him, I says, oh, when I go over to Aunt Amber's, I got about 6 or 7 different ways I can go, but you never take the same way back. And then right here in my mouth, I got a tooth that was pulled. So there's just a hole there. And Ron's got one in his. And I bought him last night at the store. I bought him some milk balls. And he said, let's have a contest. He looked at me and Uncle Ron. He said, let's have a contest. I said, okay, what's a contest? And he says, let's put this milk ball in and just keep it in our mouth until all the chocolate's gone, and let the milk ball melt in your mouth. And the first one that it does that to loses. Whoever has the candy left at the end, they win. So I just took mine, I put it in a hole in my tooth and just sit there. Ron put his in a hole of his tooth and let it sit there. Well, Ron made this mistake to tell that he did it. I didn't. But all of a sudden I look over at small Hank, and it went so long that he lost track of what we was doing. And I look over and he's like this. And I said, what are you doing chewing? He said, I forgot. I said, you lose. So then Ron started doing his, and I just left mine in there. And all of a sudden Ron said, mine's gone. I took mine out, and it was almost the whole thing still there. But you gotta do things. You gotta do things that make kids laugh. And as I said, he's looking forward to staying with me and Uncle Ron when they go on that trip and that. And that's
We spoil it.
yeah, we spoil him. Well, he looked at me last night, and I give him a small bowl of cheese balls to eat. And when he went to sit down on the sofa, the kitty jumped up at him and he dropped a bowl and he spilled them on the floor. And I said, well, give a few of them to the puppy, throw the rest of them in the garbage, and the containers out there, get some more. And he goes and gets them. He comes and he sits down by me, and he's going like this. I said, what's the matter? He said, I spilled them. I made a mistake, and I didn't get yelled at. And I said, when has me and Uncle Ron ever yelled at you? We're always there for you. And, he realizes this. And that's what I want to see. Guys, when I talk about kids and projects, and when I talk about the projects, the kids is a main project, but it has to be a project where, we do this together, where we're doing things together the right way, and we're finding these kids homes. And if we can't, and it's not just me, the Chicago Bears, everybody knows in football, I'm a huge Chicago Bears fan. And they got the number 1 pick in the draft a while back, and they drafted a quarterback, and in drafting this quarterback, they he's their number 1 quarterback on the team, but they have another kid on the team. His name is Tyson Bagent. And this kid just signed a 2 or 3 year extension, got several $1 million. And in his interview, it is not a lot of million like a lot of these people get, but he got it. And this is a kid that grew up, and his dad didn't even have running water for a while when he was growing up. He lives in a community that is very poor. So after he signs his contract, he was offered $5 million. Now listen, this is something pretty cool. He was offered $5 million. But what he was offered it for as an endorsement would go against all of his standards, and it would actually hurt the homeless instead of helping them. And he refused $5 million. Now, this is a guy that is wanting to help the community. But then somebody else stepped up and said, hey, we're going to go the opposite way, which is going to help your community, and we will work with you. They give him more. He donated $5 million that he got from an endorsement. The whole thing he donated to new housing and food and shelters for the homeless in his area. That is a man that knows what he's doing. And even though he's good enough to start on some other teams, but we have the high-priced, Superboy, that was the number 1 pick in the draft. And I like him, I do. But this kid, Bagent, may never get a chance to start. But he said, as long as the Bears want to keep him on, he's willing to be their second string, to be there to help in a case of an injury or the other quarterback's having a bad day. Anything he can do, because when he signed a contract with the Chicago Bears and they changed his life financially, because he was an undrafted free agent. So he didn't get a big contract. But even when he got it, changed his life so he could help his parents and some people in his hometown. And he said, I made a commitment. I want to stay with the Bears until they win at least 1 Super Bowl and hopefully stay with them my whole career. And when you hear someone have a heart like that, it melts your heart. And there's good people out there. There's really good people, and that's what we need more of. So I played that. Yeah, here's the AOC says they want Medicaid and food stamps back for illegals and freeloaders. Can you imagine people in our country homeless, people in our country starving, and all they're worried about is getting food stamps for illegal people that shouldn't even be here. And then people wonder why the hat has such a job on his hand. It's ridiculous the way that they treat these people, the way that they do things. It's just plain ridiculous. So that being said, I'd have to go back up, John. Oh, David Duffy, John, got my black underwear on, and they're cozy. John says, I got my special pair for the special beds. All right, that's what I like to hear. I know you guys are listening now because we got to have black underwear. But guys, I just want to tell you, they're not announced yet, so you might have to wash them once or twice before you get on the bed. Now, you guys think that's funny. I went out and bought 8 pair of black underwear.
I got mine.
We even got some put up for Ron. I mean, we're ready to go. How about you women? Janet, Susie Q, you guys got your new black underwear and your black bras? And maybe you women are perfect that you don't think anything needs to be fixed there like that. But man, I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. If you don't believe me, you ask Diane with 2 N's, man. She'll tell you when I get going on that subject, I can have a lot of fun. Yeah, it is. Thank you, David. But let's see. Let's go back here.
You know what I've noticed? Nobody talks anymore about you using your hands when you talk.
KENVUE stock drops 10% on report that RFK Jr. will link AUTISM to TYLENOL use during pregnancy. Good. What's that?
I'm talking to the TV.
Oh, I thought Ron was talking to me. He's talking to the TV.
You tell him on Monday we got to do an early show.
What? Oh, yeah. Ron says on Monday we got to do an early show because the Bears play.
Look, I asked for it to me.
Yeah.
I can't. Oh, Jesus.
Let's see. Here, I like this, guys. You gotta listen to this. Breaking: the hat orders full military takeover of LA, Chicago, Baltimore, and Boston. Emergency broadcast system armed for national reveal 1,600 plus criminals disappear from D.C. Special forces storm deep state zone. Global elites in panic mode. September 3rd, 2025. This is not politics. This is war. This mission is domestic stabilization. The targets are identified and the chain of command is secure. And the commander-in-chief, Donald J. the Hat, is executing the largest domestic military operation in U.S. history. Networks won't cover it because they're part of it. The cities are being cleansed. The rats are running and the military is fully deployed. Read between the lines. The recapture of the Republic. The Hat didn't just wake up and send troops into America's cities. The operation traces back to 2020 when the continuity of the government protocols were activated after the stolen election. The Hat never left command. The peaceful transition to Sleepy was the theater while the White Hats Alliance, Space Force, NSA, Maritime Intelligence, prepaid the counter-offensive. Cheyenne Mountain stayed sealed. Doomsday planes never stood down, and the nuclear codes were never surrendered. What looked like politics was camouflage. Now the gloves are off. The Chicago Blitz, as of September 3rd, Joint Task Force 179 controls Chicago's south and west sides. These are Title 10 federal troops directly under presidential authorities, not state governors. ROE allows lethal force against armed cartel factions. In the last 48 hours, signal jamming towers activated to flush networks, detention hubs secured at Midway and FEMA sites, biometric roadblocks deployed with IRIS and GAIT scans, and sealed indictments unrolled against city contractors, NGO directors, and political aides tied to multi-billion-dollar laundering. 10 judges flagged for treason and RICO. Why Baltimore? Because its trafficking hub decades the mission. Children statistics weren't poverty. They were pipelines. The port infrastructures funneled unmarked containers with no inspections, no CBP, and Space Force are tracking every vessel in real time. Raids have already hit NGO run child centers, inside tunnels, biometric experiments, hormone racks, and child-size MRI machines. Local politicians cried for housing aid. Whatever they really wanted was covered for basements. They didn't get it. Boston, the digital throne. Boston was set to be WEF/CBDC stronghold since 2023. It's been a test city for biometric ID enforced through schools and transit behind the curtain. MIT labs tied to CCP. Research firms ran neuro implant projects under DARPA''S old programs. 41 labs are now under Army Cyber Command review. In short, Boston was designed as the digital capital of the fourth industrial revolution. The Hat, Trump shut it down. Who is running this? This is Full Spectrum Alliance Space Force Command's orbital surveillance, marine intelligence, maps, underground networks, Delta Force teams execute raids. NASA descripts terabytes of bribery and trafficking files. Army Corps build mobile tribunal facilities. This is not about speeches, it's command. Where are the tribunals? Not in D.C. They're already underway in Guantanamo Bay, expanded for Tier 1 targets, offshore vessels under Operation Hammer Justice, and U.S. bases in Germany and Qatar. The first wave includes former mayors, DOJ officials, compromised intelligence officers, and NGO execs tied to the EPSTEIN linked networks. The arrests are real. The silence is deliberate. Final phase, the emergency broadcast system is primed. After these cities are cleared, a nationwide broadcast will reveal what has been done. Target window, October 10th through 17, 2025, when satellites lock down. AI evidence description and global arrest warrants coverage. This is why the elites panicking, crying, dictator staging false flags, begging for UN intervention. They are not afraid of tyranny. They're terrified of justice. This is not a campaign. This is command. The takedown has begun. Now, when they say the dates of October 10th to the 17th, that is for everything to get cleaned up. That has nothing to do with the revaluation, with the global currency reset, with other things that senior citizens are supposed to get, the Doge or the quantum financial system. It has nothing to do with that. This is when they're going to have these cities cleaned. And I'm telling you right now, Chicago, literally, kids, all kids, put your earmuffs on, because I got something to say, and Chicago sucks. And I love the state of Illinois. And you know, the state of Illinois is as red as my shirt if it wasn't for Chicago. But there's too many people. And I listened last night on TikTok, and they say the same thing about New York. New York is a blue state. The only reason is because they cover certain areas. They said there was 5 areas all put together that they cover, and in doing so, they rule the whole state. The rest of the state are as red as my shirt and my hat. We are taking everything back. People are opening their eyes. There's still going to be people out there that they're not going to believe. There's so many people out there on certain things that I finally had to go on a show last night, and there was these people on there, and they're on there every night, every day, every night, and every day. And if you say something against them and they do not like the hat, and if you say something against, they say, prove it. And when I do, they block me out. But last night, the question I asked them is, do you people ever work, or do you take state aid? Because you're always on here. And it makes me sick. It makes me sick when people play the racism card. And as we all know, guys, we know that there's a lot of people that we think are not with us that are with us. And there's a lot of people that we think are with us that are not with us. And it's going to be very soon, they're going to reveal who these people are. And I'm hoping one of them that they reveal is a doctor, and his last name was King. And if that happens and he comes on and he's on that special bed and he can come out, we would have never had racism in this country like we have now if he would have not been taken down. But the bad people realized that. They understood that with him, they could never succeed and get what they wanted. It's the same thing about JFK. They could have never succeeded. These were people far ahead of their times. But with them, there'd be no wars. We would already be our parents. And, I will never show pity for these people that are going to be taken down. I will never show pity for what they're going to go through and how they're going to be treated. I will never show pity, because if they'd have let JFK, if they'd have let other, the King man, if they'd have let these people do what God sent them here to do instead of putting them in hiding, if they'd have let them do this, my mom and dad would still be alive today. My brother-in-law would still be alive. If Myrna is on, Myrna's children would still be alive. Myrna's husband would still be alive. And I'm sure everyone here on this show has somebody that would still be with them. But remember this, as I tell Super Jimmy, no matter if they're gone, as long as they're here, they're never gone. My mom and dad, I'm as close to them today as I was before they passed away. Sorry, I got a little bit riled up there, but I was on a roll. I was getting ready to yell at Ron for that last thing I just read because it was so long. And, I don't like to read. And it was long. And I was getting ready to yell at Ron, why did you send me that? And then I remembered I sent it. Ooh, that ain't it.
I said something big. Tell them what Bruce had to say.
Okay, I'm getting it.
Hey,
What? Tell them who had to say.
what Bruce had to say about Sue's $100.
Oh, I'll get to that. Here's Bruce last night from Carpathia. As time goes by, Bruce knows that the further timeline will agree with the most recent, which is now Monday or Tuesday. Bruce says to watch for emails and look at it one day at a time. If Dinar shows up Saturday or Sunday on front of Forex, if anything kicks out in terms of DOGE or tariffs rebates, then Bruce thinks we are off and running and there are good indicators. One source said Dinar does not have to be on the Forex exchange to start. It could show up after we go to the exchange. Bruce feels everyone is ready to go with this. Just hang in there a bit longer. God will see us through. Guys, an hour and a half. An hour and a half, and me and Ron were placing bets with each other. You know, who's going to be the closest? Who's going to be the closest to how short of a show Bruce has? I guessed 9.5 minutes. I think Ron guessed 12.5 minutes, and we were both high. Well, how long was it, Ron? 5.5?
6 minutes and some seconds.
6 minutes and some seconds. He said absolutely nothing. He spent longer talking.
It took me longer.
3 different times.
It took me longer to send them
On
out to the
Sue's
people.
programs, on Bob's programs, on Sue's program. He went after and he literally talked about promoting Sue's programs. Guys, I worry about these. I like Bruce. I followed him a long, long time. But I really, have you noticed, whoever hears anything about Charlie Ward, David Rodriguez, the old boxer, Juan O'Savin, the old man that used to be with Charlie Ward. You know, one of ours died away, Mike Penny, or did he? You know, you don't hear about other truthers. All of a sudden, someone's talking. They say, well, I can't talk no more because I'm under an NDA. But yet people who have bigger followings and know more, they're allowed to talk. You're going to give someone who hardly knows anything but thinks he does, because it's been a hard time for him. It's been a real hard time, you know, this past this past 6 years. Try 16 to 18 years being involved in it. And I'm tired of these people taking advantage of people. And I'm glad that the people in our group here are smart enough to realize you don't have to pay for information. It's easier to go get it yourself or come on here. Tonight, I did not have a lot of information. You know, there's not a lot out there. But what I will promise you before I sign off for the night and possibly the week, if anything happens tomorrow, later in the afternoon, I will do a show tomorrow night. If anything happens Sunday, I will do a show Sunday. If anything happens Monday, we will do a show Monday early. I don't know what time yet because I love the Bears. They play Monday night. I could maybe do, if you guys want to send messages of what time you think is good, so we can be done and I can watch the Bears by 7. But here's the whole thing. If while watching the Bears, as much as I love them, we get word that something happened, we're coming on. So just keep your emails and keep checking messages. We may come on at any time, because when Bruce said what he said, and I've heard several other people, TNT Tony thinks it's definitely going to be this weekend. There's just things starting to come in my head, and I'm not going to get too high because I'm tired of riding the elevator up and down and getting nowhere. But I just have this feeling that maybe we're in the right time. Maybe it is next weekend. But guys, one way or another, we're close. And I heard someone say something today, Robert Kennedy, and he says, guys, just hang in there. It only happens once. It only has to happen once, and then everything's going to fall in place. Look for that war in them two countries. Look for them to step in and intervene if them two idiots don't do something. And I talked to the girl in the Ukraine, and I know she loves her president because she's naive. And I told her, sometimes you have feelings for your country so much. I love my country, but that guy that they call president, never once did I do it, and I never will. I'll call him a clown. I'll call him an idiot. I'll call him. As Hawk Harrelson puts it best about that man. He gone. Guys, have a great weekend. I really hope we see you this weekend. I really do. Thanks everyone for showing up. Thanks everyone for talking. All of you, we love you, and we'll talk to you later.